Hello, 4th grade readers from Mr. Schnabel's class and Miss Hughes' class. Today we're going to be reading a book that continues our conversation about Earth changing. We're actually going to read to try to understand. Our essential question for the last couple days has been, how do Earth's natural processes impact our lives? A natural process that we've already read about and learned a little bit about were earthquakes. And we're trying to think about how earthquakes affect our lives and the world around us. We used academic vocabulary to describe the changes that happened, and the word process helps us to understand that the series of changes caused those tectonic plates that we heard about to move and cause an earthquake when they bump into each other. Sometimes the formation of new landforms happens from an earthquake, like the Himalayan mountains. That's an example of a constructive change because it built something, like construction does. Today we're actually going to read the chapter called Volcanoes, as you can see on my screen. It's actually from pages 12 to 16, and we're going to learn a little bit more about one of Earth's natural processes, which, again, processes are a series of change. Something changes when this happens. So we're actually going to learn more about tectonic plates, but before we read, we're going to skim and scan the text, as we always do. You'll notice that this is an informational science text about Earth. So when we skim and scan this text, we want to make sure we look for things like text structures, like things that you can see on the page based on its graphic features and whatever else you notice. So let's take a look at what we see. Okay, I can already see there's a title of the page or the chapter, which is called Volcanoes. And I can already see a subheading, which looks like a chapter as well, but it's slightly smaller. So you can see it says Earth layers is the first topic in this chapter we're going to read about. You might have also noticed that this section titled Volcanoes is going to include maps. As you can see, there's a map on there that says Naples, Italy. It also includes diagrams like the diagram of the Earth's globe on the top of the picture here, and actual photographs. As you can see at the bottom, that's a photo from the mountains. It also has subheadings, like I said, Earth layers. So today, our purpose for reading is to really try to understand how Earth's processes, whether it's volcanoes or earthquakes, how do those actually impact us? So a volcano is just another example of a natural process. As good close readers, as you remember from school, we're actually going to use the reading strategy to determine importance of key details. What that means is, it's not easy, but I need to make sure that when I'm looking for facts and key details, I choose the ones that are important to what I'm asking and not just interesting. Now, you might read a lot of interesting things about volcanoes here, but remember, we're trying to determine importance. Since this is an informational science text, there also might be some vocabulary we've never seen before, but that's nothing new. We come across that all the time when we read new texts. So as good readers, we might have to slow down for a little bit and check and see if we understand all this new vocabulary. Sometimes the pictures will help us. Sometimes we might have to read captions. And sometimes we might have to use our other close reading skills to determine what these words might mean. In the end, our goal is to understand, so we really should do the work to understand. So I'm going to begin. I'm going to read the first couple chapters of this section called Volcanoes. I'm going to read paragraphs 1 and 2. And I want you to follow along, because as I read, I'm going to show you how I decide between important and interesting facts. I'm also going to use the underlining or highlighting tool to help me summarize the section at the end once I've collected all the important information. Summarizing is actually putting all of it together so that I can still say all the right information without elaborating too much. So I'm going to read paragraph 1 and 2 with you right now. Let me get my underlining tool in case I need to underline something. And here I go. Volcanoes. At first glance, Naples appears to be like any other bursting European city. Tucked along the west coast of Italy, Naples has a picturesque bay to the west and a majestic mountain rising to the east. Look closer, however, and you will see that the nearby mountain is in fact Mount Vesuvius, a very large active volcano. When it erupted in 79 CE, it rained poisonous gases, rock, ash, and scalding hot lava down on the surrounding cities and their inhabitants. What causes violent volcanic eruptions like this? The answer lies deep within the earth. Okay, so what I need to think about is how did the author begin? So I'm going to go back up to paragraph 1. And there might have been some words that I didn't notice before that we can talk about. And there might be some information that is only interesting and not important, or vice versa. Let's see. I see that the author starts to describe this place called Naples, Italy, which is a real place, because this is real information. And he's talking about it having inhabitants, which means people that live there. So it sounds like it's probably pretty busy, because he also says this word, bustling European city in Italy. Bustling would tell me that there's a lot of people sort of moving around. So it's kind of a busy city. But then he says it has a bay to the west, and it called it picturesque. And it even said it had mountains to the east, and they called it majestic. Well, picturesque means beautiful, like a picture. And majestic means magical, or also beautiful. So it's a beautiful place. And the author is clearly trying to make me think of something beautiful and put this picture in my mind. But since the title is Volcanoes, and both of those things are about a bay and mountain ranges, I'm not sure that I need to highlight that as a key detail, even though it is interesting. So I'm not going to. Then the author goes on to say that Mount Vesuvius, this is the word right here, Mount Vesuvius. He says that it's part of the mountain range, so it's in the mountains, and one of the mountains is Mount Vesuvius, and it's a very large, that was a silly line, active volcano. Ooh, it's an active volcano. Active means moving, so I feel like active probably means that this volcano could erupt because it's like alive, like active. That's kind of scary, I think. It also says that it erupted in 79 CE, and I am sorry my lines are not very straight. And it rained, I gotta use two hands for this, it rained poisonous gases, rock, ash, and scalding hot lava down on the surrounding cities. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to say that that is important information. It explains what happens when like a volcano erupts. So when a volcano is an active volcano, that is something that happens. And to me, that affects people. And since my question is, how does earth processes like volcanoes affect us? Well, I wouldn't want to be walking around and having hot lava coming down on me. So I'm thinking that this is actually a really important fact. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type that fact into my first key detail. And I'm going to use quotation marks because I'm stealing it from the text. Let's see. It said, in 79 CE, which is just year 79, by the way, Mount Vesuvius rained poisonous gas. That sounds really bad. Poisonous gas, rock, ash. That ash is like the little dusty stuff that comes off of burnt wood. Ash and scalding. Scalding means so hot it burns your skin. Scalding hot lava. And I got that from paragraph 1. So I'm going to label that. Okay. So there is our first key detail about Earth's natural processes that actually affect lives. Because remember, the author told us it's a beautiful place, but if hot lava is coming down, that does affect the people that live there. Okay, I want to go back to the text, and I think the next thing it said was in paragraph 2. So it says that what causes volcanic eruptions? The answer lies deep within the earth. So I think I like that it's telling me about causes, because I want to know about the processes, and processes have to do with steps. So what causes it to happen? Well, something deep in the earth. And again, I feel like this is important because it tells me what causes a volcano to erupt. So I'm going to include that as a key detail as well. So I'm going to go back to my text here, and I'm going to say, it told me that volcanic activity is caused, and I like that word, caused by, and it said this word, something deep within the earth, within Earth. Earth is the name of our planet. And that was from paragraph 2. Okay. Now, Mount Vesuvius, I'm not saying this is important information, but if I'm going to summarize what I just read about, I do want to say that Mount Vesuvius was in like Naples, Italy. That might just be an important thing about the mountain itself and the volcano. Okay, so I've read paragraphs 1 and 2. What do I do now? I want to take my synthesizing skills, and I want to take the information that I see in both of these details and try to put them together to create my own summary of what I just read. So in this box for summary of paragraph 1 and 2, I need to look at some of these key words that might help me. So let's see. I see Mount Vesuvius is probably a word I should use. What's another word? Let's see. I see poisonous gas, ash. I think something deep within the earth might have to do with underground, so I might include that. 79 CE tells me Mount Vesuvius is kind of old. It was in Italy. I think that might be important. How old it was might be important. And I think that it's important to say that it was something called an active volcano. I didn't know that there were 2 kinds of volcanoes, but an active one is one that will cause damage and actually erupt. So I might want to say that. So for my summary, let me see what I can do. I think I'm going to say Mount Vesuvius is an old active volcano in Italy that erupts. Yeah, let me start with that. Mount Vesuvius. Notice I'm getting this information from what I've already written. I'm not going around looking for it. I'm just trying to figure out how to combine it. I'm trying to stir it all up in my brain and create a good sentence. So I'm going to take all these things and try to put it together. So Mount Vesuvius is an old, and I'm going to call it active, old active volcano in Italy that caused a lot of damage. Yeah, it brought gas, rocks, ash all coming down, so I'm going to say that caused a lot of damage. And volcano eruptions are caused by something in the earth or underground, because I have to include this. And that's not just true of Mount Vesuvius, that's all volcanoes. So now I'm just going to say all volcanoes. How do you spell volcanoes? ES. All volcanoes are caused by something deep underground. That's it. So notice I took all of these sentences